everyone. This is a different type of video. We're not doing a challenge this time, but rather a first glance at what World 2 is. This video will contain a showcase of the new weapons, as well as the types of enemies that are in World 2, along with the types of bosses. Stay tuned for that. Now, I think that it's only fair that we go ahead and start with the commons and work our way up to the legendary weapons. So we'll go ahead and first start with the cactus sword. So the cactus sword is the only common weapon that has been added in this update. It does basically the same amount of damage as your wooden sword would do, except its ability is it summons a spike trap. And if the enemies get caught in this spike trap, then, well, they get stuck in there for a certain period of time, which allows you to hit them. Next on our list is the moon sickle. So you can think of this as your new blood sickle, I guess, except its ability is better as it shoots out a singular orb that does high DPS and also procs a status effect onto the enemy, and it has a very short cooldown, which is very nice. Next we have the fire sword, which is also a rare. This is an anticipated sword actually, as it has been hinted in the game before at the blacksmith table right at the entrance of the lobby. Now its ability is very similar to that of the frost blade, except it's just fire. So obviously it's going to be much better as flame is the best element in the game. So yeah. Next up is the bone blade, which is also a rare. Now this weapon is basically the forged steel, but a lot better, as you'll see in a moment here, it grants a bone type of armor around you and gives you a white glowing effect. As you see here, it basically makes up a third of my health in just shield, and you don't lose speed like the forged steel would. So it's obviously a better upgrade if you run the forged steel. Definitely invest in trying to get this bone blade. It is a great sword as well, so there's not too much lost in damage wise. Now moving on to our epics, we have the Sandstorm Scythe. This scythe is actually very cool and very strong. This is only level 3 here and is already doing the same amount of damage as a level 3 solar scythe would. So this just goes to show how strong the 2-star weapons are in terms of 1-star weapons. And for its ability, it summons, well, you would guess, a sandstorm. I'm assuming that this sucks in enemies. Now, for our final epic on the list, we have the Royalist, which is a big old hammer. This hammer is probably the highest damage dealing weapon in the game, I'm not gonna lie. And its ability is probably the most unique that I have seen. You see, it makes you go invisible, and enemies can't see you while you're in this invisibility phase. So it's very cool, if you are definitely more of a attack and then back away type of player, this is your weapon. Now before we get on to the actual legendaries, a lot of people have seen this weapon getting teased. Now you would think that this weapon is a new type of legendary that will be dropped, but you are wrong. This is actually the Infested Blade. It's been reworked so that now when you summon its cloud, instead of it just being frost, you get a poison effect too. So now it has 2 elements that slow the enemy down, which means that enemies get stuck in the ice storm that is spawned, now move a lot slower and have a harder time getting out of it, which means you can sweep in with your high damage dealing weapon just like this and clear them out. Now for the first legendary that we have on the list out of the 2 that have been added is the Golden Hand. This sword is basically our new stellar in some sense in the attack speed, much stronger obviously at level 2, and with the ability of summoning 3 phantom troops that deal damage. They do 50% of what your damage is, so the stronger that your golden hand is, the stronger that your phantom troops will be. And your phantom troops spawn with buffs that enemies will spawn with, so if you are lucky, you could get enemies that deal poison at level 10, your flame, speed, dex, defense. Now keep in mind these enemies do disappear after a certain amount of time, so they're not infinite, but if you do get recovery 4, you could basically have them on the field at all times just by spamming. So it's definitely interesting to see what type of challenge videos people will make with this type of sword. Now finally, for the last legendary, honestly my favorite in terms of design and looks, I think that this sword, or not sword, scythe, this scythe has one of the coolest abilities in the game as of right now. You see, a lot of people tend to sleep on the elemental circle, so this weapon spawns placeable elemental circles that disappear after a certain amount of time, and they deal pure flame damage. Now this is a type of weapon that you would use if you're really good at sticking close to enemies' feet like this, and then dodge while having this ability active. And it has a quite long cooldown, but the trade-off that you get for just standing on an enemy like this, I mean, just look at how much ticks are coming up from me just standing on this one enemy. It's actually insane. Now that's it for the showcase of the weapons. Armors will be added later on, I'm pretty sure, or later on. I'm filming this 4 hours before the update gets dropped, so I guess we'll see. I won't be able to showcase those sadly, but let's go ahead and jump right into the World 2 enemies. Now, first thoughts on loading in. Right away, we are greeted with a very cool temple desert looking feel, which is really nice. We have music that plays as well, and we have Clyde the guide outside front ready to talk to us, and he tells us a few different types of dialogues that eventually lead to one outcome. So now for enemy types, we have skeletons, which basically replace our zombies, and mummies, which are also a zombie substitute. Now the archers definitely got reworked in this update. They now shoot 3 arrows in different directions, so they are a lot harder to go no hitless around. As well as, I don't know if you noticed this, but there are traps that are on the floor when you enter the room. These traps deal quite a bit of damage, as you wouldn't want to stand in them, so it looks like the devs here are very adamant about making sure that people don't go no hit in their game anymore. Okay, so we have a new type of trap that's on the ground now. It's like a vine rope. A lot of people have seen this, that got leaked. It grabs you and it stuns you for a certain period of time. Now we also have a new type of enemy. This enemy summons a TNT skull, and you guessed it, it can be killed, but only with a high enough damage dealing weapon. And also, something to note is that these skulls spawn with their own modifiers on them. Now these enemies are definitely a #1 go-to for killing first, I'm not gonna lie, because they will keep spawning these TNT heads, and they don't despawn until they hit you or enemies or teammates that are in your group, so definitely kill them first. And we have a new type of sniping, or a long-range enemy here. We have a sniper skeleton, and these actually do quite a bit of damage, so they hit you for around like 50 health. Do not want to get hit by these, especially if they have really good multipliers on them. So that's basically it for chapter 1. Chapter 1, that's all the enemies. I'll go ahead and see you guys over at the first boss. So the first boss, it appears, is a type of worm. I don't know if any of you have seen Doom before, but it looks like one of those Doom worms. Now this enemy shoots out a mortar of like acid spit, and this enemy, I'm not gonna lie, is very annoying, especially because it tends to do like a type of splash damage. So even if you aren't near it or like standing on top of it, it will hit you. So that's something to be careful about. And as you can see here, it does a lot of damage. So be careful when you're fighting this, guys. Now I'm gonna go ahead and rewind here since I want to show you guys the second boss as well. But let's go ahead and talk about the new type of enemy that appears in chapter 2. Now, let's see if we get in this room. Okay, we don't, but we do get one of the other this time. So, in chapter 2, we get introduced to a wizard, very similar to our mages that are in World 1, as well as a bomber goblin. Now, it's kind of hard to see, but he shoots out 3 mortars instead of 1. And these wizards shoot out flame balls that separate very quickly and they move very fast. Now, you wouldn't want to get hit by these since, you know, they basically are like the mages. You don't want to get hit by the mages. These are, them shooting out 3 mage balls is basically how the old mages were before release of World 1. So, do not get robbed. I do not recommend it. Now, this is the new type of enemy that is replacing our lovely giants that we all love. It is an enemy that holds a shield. Now this shield blocks any type of damage that's going on. I'll demonstrate in a second. So this enemy can only be killed by parrying or running behind it. So you are able to deal with a friend, then these bosses, enemies, so mini bosses, stand no chance. As you see, they do get killed very easily, but they do have the cursed armor that appears in Nightmare mode in World 1. Now, moving on to our second boss is Necros. Necros is a boss who is a summoner. So those of you who have played any type of game with summoning enemies, you know that they are very annoying, and she is very strong and very hard to predict and dodge, as her attacks are very fast. And you see as I die here. Now, I won't actually show you guys the final boss fight because it has some major lore drops. Now, keep in mind that these bosses that I just showed you will have intro cutscenes. So don't be too disappointed if you do see this video and like, oh, why don't they have intro cutscenes, or why is this video so different? This is the testing space, so there is a lot of bugs and fixes that happen all the time in this place. So don't be too harsh on the devs. Now, obviously I didn't cover armor sets. The armor sets haven't been added yet, so do expect a showcase video to come out later talking about the armor sets here and a little bit more lore about Clyde if you guys are interested on that. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.